Okay, today we live in a world moving at relentless speed. Notifications, deadlines, and the constant comparison of social media shape our days and steal our nights. Many people feel caught in cycles of stress, regret, or choices that echo like bad karma, repeating patterns they cannot escape. Welcome to Stoic Dhamma, a space where we pause together, explore ancient wisdom, and rediscover calm within. Here, the Stoic philosophy meets the timeless question of how to transform our lives through inner strength and mindful practice. In today's journey, we will explore how Stoic habits, small daily acts of discipline and reflection, can help us break the chains of negative karma. By replacing harmful cycles with practices of resilience, clarity, and compassion, you may learn to rewrite the direction of your story. Inner discipline is not about denying yourself life's pleasures, nor about living in rigid austerity. It is about cultivating a steady mind, one that does not collapse when confronted by turbulence. In Stoic philosophy, discipline is the soil from which freedom grows. Without it, the mind becomes a prisoner of impulses, tossed from desire to regret like a ship without anchor. From here we turn to the central insight. Freedom does not come from controlling the outside world. The Stoics remind us that no one can dictate the storms of fortune. Markets rise and fall, relationships shift, health decays. Yet within this impermanence lies a choice, how we respond. Discipline gives us that choice, a pause before reaction, a breath before anger, a steady gaze in moments of fear. Seneca once reflected that most people are ruled by their passions rather than ruling them. To him, the lack of discipline was not a minor weakness, but a chain. Every unexamined reaction, every unrestrained desire, deepened the weight of this chain. He believed that only through training the mind could a person taste genuine freedom, not because life became easier, but because the soul became unshakable. Now imagine your daily routine. The phone buzzes, the inbox fills, someone cuts you off in traffic. Each moment is a test. Do we surrender to irritation, or do we exercise the power of inner discipline? This small gap, the moment between stimulus and response, is where karma is shaped. Habits born here decide whether we build resilience or perpetuate chaos, but there's another layer worth considering. Many traditions, from Hindu philosophy to the teachings of the Buddha, speak of karma as the ripples of our actions returning to us. The Stoics, though not using the same word, described a similar truth. They saw every choice as part of a larger pattern. To live without discipline was to scatter seeds of disorder. To live with it was to plant the garden of peace. Discipline begins in the smallest acts. Waking early to reflect before the day begins, pausing before words slip into anger, choosing gratitude over complaint. These are not grand heroic gestures. They are quiet victories, repeated daily, until they transform the landscape of the soul. Like drops of water carving stone, disciplined habits reshape destiny. Epictetus, once a slave who found liberation in philosophy, insisted that true chains were not made of iron, but of ignorance. He taught that no tyrant could enslave the disciplined mind. Even under harsh conditions, a person trained in self-mastery remained free. To him, discipline was the supreme power, greater than wealth or status, because it was untouchable by circumstance. Consider how this applies to our modern life. We chase productivity, yet often feel exhausted. We seek pleasure, yet remain restless. Discipline asks us to step back and ask, are we in command of ourselves or merely drifting? By practicing restraint, by choosing where to place our attention, we reclaim our energy. Discipline becomes the gatekeeper, protecting us from the noise of the world. At first, discipline may seem like sacrifice, but in time it reveals itself as liberation. The disciplined person wastes no energy on regret. Their mind is not consumed by endless wanting. They are steady in loss, humble in success, and generous in the in-between. This steadiness is not indifference but clarity, a way of moving through life without being consumed by it. Now imagine standing in front of a mirror, not to examine your face but your character. Each thought, each habit, leaves an imprint. Over years, undisciplined patterns accumulate like dust on glass, obscuring the reflection. Discipline is the daily act of cleaning, polishing, and clearing. It is not glamorous, yet it reveals the light beneath. Without this effort, the mirror of the self grows dim. The question emerges: can we truly reshape our fate by mastering small actions? The Stoics would say yes, not because we control the universe, but because we control ourselves. Karma, in this light, is not an external decree, but the echo of our choices. Discipline transforms the echo. It is the instrument through which chaos becomes harmony, pain becomes strength, and fate becomes freedom. Think of Marcus Aurelius, an emperor burdened with war, plague, and betrayal. He could have drowned in despair or lashed out with cruelty. Instead, through discipline, he trained his mind to see obstacles as opportunities. His private writings reveal not a ruler obsessed with power, but a man struggling successfully to master himself. His reign shows how inner discipline can ripple outward, shaping nations as well as hearts. From here, we return to ourselves. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about presence. Every day offers chances to practice. When faced with provocation, when tempted by indulgence, when surrounded by noise, each moment of awareness is a victory, a step in breaking the cycle of bad karma. Through these steps, we begin to live less as captives of circumstance and more as architects of destiny. There is a paradox here. Discipline feels restrictive, yet it expands freedom. It seems heavy, yet it lightens the burden of regret. It asks for effort, yet it gives rest. This paradox is the secret of Stoic philosophy. By embracing self-control, we free ourselves from control by others. By mastering desire, we discover contentment in simplicity. So the path begins with one question: how will you respond? Each reaction is a seed. Anger plants turmoil, patience plants peace, envy plants restlessness, gratitude plants joy. Discipline is the hand that chooses which seeds to scatter. Over time, the garden reflects the gardener. Karma is not punishment. It is the harvest of what we sow with our daily habits. In the end, the power of inner discipline is not about harsh self-denial, but about conscious living. It is the art of being awake to our choices, mindful of their echoes, and brave enough to pause when the world demands haste. This is how we step beyond cycles of bad karma. This is how we begin the transformation of our lives. When we hear the word karma, our thoughts often turn eastward. We picture Indian temples, Buddhist sutras, or the wheel of rebirth from Hindu philosophy. Karma speaks of cause and effect, each action carrying ripples that return to the doer. Yet under the Mediterranean sun, the Stoics were uncovering a strikingly similar truth. From the crowded streets of Athens to the marble courts of Rome, Stoic thinkers reflected on how human choices build destiny's architecture. They did not call it karma, but logos, reason woven through the cosmos. To act in harmony with this order created peace. To act against it fractured the soul. In this way, the moral law of karma found a parallel in Stoic philosophy. Seneca, writing to his friend Lucilius, observed that vice punishes itself. For him, wrongdoing needed no gods to strike it down. Its weight was immediate: a restless mind, a corroded spirit, and the absence of peace. Much like Hindu texts that describe karma carried across lifetimes, Seneca revealed how actions become burdens, pulling one into suffering long before judgment arrives. Epictetus, born into slavery, carried these reflections deeper. He declared that real bondage comes not from iron chains, but from attachments and illusions. Each indulgence and each failure to examine ourselves plants seeds of captivity. Here lies the Stoic vision of karma. Ignorance multiplies suffering, while awareness and discipline transform it. Actions aligned with reason sow freedom. Actions rooted in blindness reap misery. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, reminded himself daily that the universe is change and life is opinion. His insight was simple but profound. Judgments shape our reality, and from judgments come actions that ripple outward. If thoughts are seeds, karma is the harvest. Cruelty plants bitterness, kindness yields nourishment. What we choose to plant becomes the fruit we must taste. But the Stoics also saw the universe as an ordered web. Nothing exists in isolation. Pull one thread too hard, and the whole fabric trembles. Karma, in this sense, is interconnectedness, the natural law of cause and effect. It is not an external punishment, but the vibration of one life touching another, a reminder that our choices never stand alone. History itself bears witness to this truth. Empires do not collapse by chance alone. They rot from within. Greed erodes trust. Corruption breeds rebellion. Arrogance blinds rulers. Fortune turns against those who defy virtue. These are not myths, but the lived karma of societies. Stoicism urged individuals toward virtue precisely to prevent such collective unraveling. Both Stoicism and Eastern traditions also place weight on intention. Hindu texts teach that intention shapes karma more than ritual itself. Epictetus echoed this. It is not events but opinions of events that matter. If the root is pure, the fruit will nourish. If the root is poisoned, even small actions spread suffering. Intention is the invisible architecture of karma. Archaeology adds its silent testimony. Inscriptions found in Roman baths or fragments of papyrus often urge moderation, patience, and virtue. These were not abstract ideals. They were lived guidance etched into places where people gathered. Across continents, Sanskrit verses and Stoic meditations carried the same yearning, to live in harmony with the unseen law binding cause to consequence. From here we turn to the radical Stoic claim, nothing external can harm us without our consent. This redefines karma. A cruel insult only becomes poison if nourished by anger. Misfortune is not fate's punishment, but a test of response. Karma, then, is not only what happens to us, but also how we interpret and engage with it. Freedom survives even within adversity. The Stoics did not deny suffering. They endured exile, war, plague, and betrayal. Yet they taught that suffering is the proving ground of virtue. Karma was not escape from pain, but the transformation of pain into meaning. Marcus Aurelius lost children yet counseled patience. Seneca endured exile yet taught resilience. Epictetus lived as a slave yet proclaimed freedom. Their lives testify that karma is shaped not by circumstance alone, but by response. Imagine your life as a field. Each thought is a seed, each action a planting. Some sprout into weeds of resentment and greed. Others grow into trees of compassion and clarity. Karma is simply the harvest of this field. The Stoic path is the art of mindful farming, tending habits, examining intentions, and choosing carefully what to plant each day. Yet karma, as the Stoics saw it, was not only personal. Marcus Aurelius often reflected that we are all citizens of one cosmos. To harm another is to wound ourselves. To lie, cheat, or exploit is to fracture the harmony of the whole. Just as societies rooted in vice collapse, communities rooted in virtue thrive. Karma is collective as well as individual. This is why discipline was more than private practice. To restrain anger is not only to heal the mind, but also to stop cycles of violence. To act with justice strengthens society's fabric. Karma is not a mystical tally, but a chain of consequences spreading outward like ripples on water. Every act matters because no act stands alone. There is profound comfort in this vision. If karma were fixed, despair would rule. If fate were unchangeable, freedom would be illusion. But the Stoics affirm that each moment offers a chance to plant new seeds. Yesterday's anger need not define today's harvest. The cycle can be broken. Renewal is possible through awareness, intention, and practice. Thus, karma in Stoic thought becomes an invitation rather than a sentence. It is not about cosmic punishment, but about alignment, living with reason, virtue, and the natural order. Each action carries consequence, not by decree but by design. To ignore this is to stumble. To embrace it is to walk steadily. Eastern wisdom and Stoicism converge here, whispering the same truth across centuries and continents. The conclusion is simple but powerful. Bad karma is never final. It is the natural fruit of unexamined choices, yet it can be transformed. With discipline, with clarity, with compassion, the harvest changes. Destiny bends not to chance but to wisdom. In that bending, renewal is born. Stoic philosophy was never meant to stay confined in scrolls or treated as intellectual decor. It was designed as a living discipline, a way of meeting each day with steadiness and clarity. Renewal, for the Stoic, is not born from dramatic revelations, but from repeated small practices that anchor the soul in virtue. The foundation is simple. Focus on what is within your control and release what is not. Though obvious, this principle is profoundly difficult in a noisy, uncertain world. We chase approval, grasp at outcomes, and exhaust ourselves rearranging what cannot be fixed. The Stoics remind us that serenity begins when attention returns to our thoughts, choices, and attitudes, the true sphere of control. Imagine the relief of no longer chasing storms you cannot command. Weather changes, markets fluctuate, people disappoint. Tie your peace to these, and you become their hostage. Anchor your peace instead in your response, and no storm can unseat you. This is the first daily practice. Let go of what lies beyond. Embrace what belongs to you. Another practice is journaling, famously modeled by Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations. His notes were not polished philosophy, but reminders to himself, acts of renewal. Today, journaling can help you pause in the morning or evening, reflect on your actions, and prepare your soul. It is not about recording events, but examining the self, the temptations resisted, words regretted, moments of gratitude, and lingering fears. Over time, patterns emerge, revealing where discipline must grow and where progress has already taken root. Reflection should never be mistaken for punishment. The Stoics, especially Seneca, urged daily self-examination not as a way to dwell on guilt, but as a method of refinement. To look back on our actions is to take responsibility without sinking into despair. Each journal entry becomes a fresh beginning, a reminder that mistakes are not final verdicts, but stepping stones toward wisdom. By writing honestly, you lighten the weight of regret and transform it into guidance for tomorrow. This practice keeps harmful patterns from hardening into chains of karma. Instead, it clears mental space, allowing discipline, clarity, and growth to flourish. Reflection, when embraced gently, is not a burden, but a daily renewal of the soul. Complementing journaling is the meditation on mortality, memento mori. Far from morbid, this reflection frees the spirit. Remembering death teaches urgency and gratitude. If today were your last, would you waste it on pettiness? A quiet morning whisper, "This day is a gift," can transform perspective. Annoyances shrink. Traffic feels less oppressive. Arguments lose their sting. Life is too brief for resentment, and awareness of mortality makes each moment a chance to plant better seeds. Discipline also finds its sharpest test in relationships. Words spoken in anger can leave scars that outlast the moment. The Stoics remind us to see others as fellow travelers, flawed, struggling, human. When provoked, pause. Ask yourself, will my reaction plant harmony or discord? Each restrained word, each moment of patience, is renewal in action. This is not weakness, but strength. To lash out requires no effort. To master oneself requires courage. Epictetus noted that insult only harms if we allow it. By refusing to mirror anger, we interrupt cycles of harm and offer peace instead. Every encounter becomes a practice ground for renewal. Gratitude is another vital Stoic practice, later confirmed by modern psychology. Gratitude rewires the mind, replacing envy with contentment. Pause each day to notice the blessings already present: food, shelter, companionship. These acknowledgments shift perspective from scarcity to abundance, planting joy that becomes resilience in adversity. Renewal also requires limits. Seneca argued that wealth lies not in possessions, but in contentment. In modern life, this translates into simplicity. Declutter possessions, reduce distractions, and guard attention fiercely. By consuming less, whether food, entertainment, or digital noise, you redirect energy toward pursuits that nourish the soul. Restraint becomes freedom. Evening reflection closes the day. Like a craftsman examining tools, replay the hours. Where did you live with virtue? Where did you stumble? What will change tomorrow? This gentle inventory prevents unconscious habits from forming chains. Each night sharpens the soul for dawn, ensuring growth continues. Small practices, journaling a line, pausing before anger, whispering gratitude, remembering mortality, may seem minor. Yet they are the hinges upon which destiny turns. The Stoics did not wait for dramatic events to shape their character. They wove wisdom into ordinary life, turning repetition into strength. Renewal is not sudden transformation, but devotion to small acts of virtue. Picture 1 week of living these habits. You journal intentions in the morning, meet challenges with patience, pause before reacting, and close the night with gratitude. By week's end, the burden of bad karma feels lighter, the mind more spacious. Each day becomes a step toward freedom. Failures will come, discipline falters, but each failure is itself practice. Renewal means beginning again, endlessly if necessary. The Stoics urge us not to despair at missteps, but to learn and restart. The habit of renewal becomes the greatest discipline, proof that karma is not fixed but pliable, reshaped by choice. Daily Stoic renewal is built upon 3 essential movements: attention, intention, and reflection. Attention means focusing only on what lies within your control, freeing yourself from the chaos of external forces. Intention means choosing to act with virtue, justice, courage, wisdom, and temperance, as guiding principles. Reflection allows you to look back, evaluate your actions, and refine the direction of your life. Practiced together, these rhythms transform philosophy into a living guide, one that shapes choices and character. In doing so, harmful cycles give way to constructive habits, and growth steadily replaces stagnation. Renewal then becomes a daily practice of freedom. The invitation is clear. Do not wait for the distant future to escape bad karma. Begin today with 1 journal entry, 1 breath of patience, 1 act of gratitude. Modest as they seem, these practices are powerful levers. Through them, you align with Stoic wisdom and rediscover the truth. Renewal is always within reach. Philosophy becomes most powerful when it steps out of books and walks into lives. The Stoics never intended their wisdom to remain locked in ivory towers. They lived their teachings in courts, in battlefields, in prisons, and in moments of quiet reflection. To see Stoicism fully, we must look not only at the words but at the people who embodied them. Marcus Aurelius is perhaps the most striking example. Imagine an emperor with armies at his command, ruling an empire stretched from deserts to forests. Yet in the silence of his tent during long campaigns, he wrote meditations not on conquest, but on humility, mortality, and virtue. His reign reminds us that true strength is not domination, but self-mastery, and that discipline can guide even the most powerful toward compassion. From here we turn to the story of Viktor Frankl, a man centuries removed from Rome, but bound to Stoic wisdom by circumstance. A prisoner in Nazi concentration camps, he faced cruelty beyond comprehension. Yet he discovered that even in chains, a person retains the freedom to choose their attitude. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, echoes the Stoic insight that while fate may confine the body, it cannot confine the spirit. The parallel is striking. Marcus Aurelius endured plague and betrayal yet continued to serve with steadiness. Frankl endured starvation and violence yet found meaning in suffering. Both men show us that Stoicism is not about avoiding hardship, but about transforming it. Bad karma, painful circumstances, and unjust suffering become fuel for growth when met with courage, patience, and discipline. But there's another layer here. Historical figures remind us that Stoicism is not abstract, yet the practice is not limited to rulers or martyrs. Everyday people embody Stoic principles whenever they choose restraint over anger or kindness over retaliation. The parent who listens calmly to a child's frustration, the worker who endures injustice without surrendering dignity. These are living examples of Stoic wisdom as much as emperors or philosophers. Consider Nelson Mandela, who studied Stoic philosophy during his long imprisonment. He entered prison consumed by anger and desire for revenge, yet emerged with vision, compassion, and forgiveness. By disciplining his heart, he transformed not only himself, but an entire nation. His story is a reminder that cycles of bad karma, violence, hatred, oppression, can be broken by the steady practice of virtue, even under crushing weight. Now imagine applying this insight to your own life. Perhaps you are not leading an empire or enduring a prison camp, but you may face daily challenges that feel overwhelming: stress at work, strained relationships, or private grief. The lives of Marcus Aurelius, Viktor Frankl, and Nelson Mandela show that Stoic habits do not require special circumstances. They simply require courage to practice patience, gratitude, and reflection in the middle of life's storms. History offers countless echoes of this truth. James Stockdale, an American fighter pilot captured during the Vietnam War, credited Epictetus for his survival. In solitary confinement, enduring torture, he held to Stoic principles: focus on what cannot be taken, endure what must be endured, and live with dignity. His example demonstrates that even in the darkest places, Stoicism provides light. But renewal is not only about survival. Stoic wisdom also shapes how we succeed. Athletes, leaders, and artists who practice daily discipline often find greater clarity and resilience. When success arrives, Stoicism guards against arrogance. When failure strikes, Stoicism prevents despair. By embodying its principles, people turn achievements into service rather than self-indulgence. The lesson is clear: Stoicism is as valuable in triumph as in tragedy. The thread tying these lives together is the principle of choice. Marcus Aurelius chose humility when he could have chosen tyranny. Frankl chose meaning when he could have chosen despair. Mandela chose forgiveness when he could have chosen vengeance. Stockdale chose dignity when he could have chosen hopelessness. These choices reveal how karma bends when discipline directs the will. Each story proves that fate offers conditions, but response creates destiny. From here, we reflect on what it means to break bad karma. The cycle of suffering often continues because people mirror pain with pain, anger with anger, injustice with revenge. But the Stoics teach us that cycles can be interrupted. By responding differently, the chain weakens. By planting seeds of patience and gratitude instead of resentment, we change the harvest not only for ourselves, but for those around us. Think of a stone dropped into water. Its ripples extend outward, touching far shores. In the same way, the disciplined choice of one person influences many lives. Marcus Aurelius's meditations, never intended for publication, continue to guide millions today. Frankl's reflections, born of suffering, inspire countless readers to find meaning. Your own choices, though unseen by the world, may ripple through family, community, and generations yet to come. But there's also a humility in this perspective. Stoic examples remind us that discipline is not perfection. Marcus Aurelius admitted his flaws in private writing. Frankl wept in despair before finding meaning. Mandela struggled with bitterness before embracing forgiveness. Stoicism does not demand flawless strength. It invites repeated renewal, the courage to begin again after weakness, and the wisdom to see that growth is a lifelong journey. Living examples also teach us that Stoicism is not cold detachment, but warm humanity. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about kindness, reminding himself that other people act out of ignorance, not malice. Frankl spoke of love as the ultimate purpose, even in the camps. Mandela dedicated his life to reconciliation, not revenge. Stoic wisdom does not freeze the heart. It disciplines it, so that love flows without being drowned by anger. So what can you take from these examples? Begin with small acts. When provoked, pause. When success tempts pride, return to humility. When loss tempts despair, search for meaning. Each time you practice, you are following in the footsteps of those who faced far greater trials yet remained steady. Their lives remind you that you too can rewrite the script of karma, day by day. Ultimately, these figures show us that Stoicism is not about escaping life's burdens, but about carrying them with grace. Karma may hand you suffering, injustice, or uncertainty, but you decide whether those weights crush or strengthen you. The lives of Marcus Aurelius, Viktor Frankl, Nelson Mandela, and James Stockdale shine as beacons. Suffering can refine character, adversity can forge wisdom, and renewal is always possible. In their stories, the philosophy of the ancients becomes flesh. Stoic wisdom lives not only in quotes but in choices, not only in meditations but in actions. To live stoically is to join this lineage, to become another link in the chain of renewal, breaking cycles of harm and creating cycles of hope. And perhaps through your example, others may learn the same. Stoic philosophy teaches that bad karma is never a final judgment, but rather a gentle call to begin anew. Each thought, decision, and habit has the potential to shape and redirect our future. When we choose discipline, cultivate clarity, and practice compassion, harmful cycles lose their grip. In their place, strength, purpose, and inner peace can grow. Renewal is always possible when we accept responsibility and live each day with mindful intention and courage. If you want to explore more Stoic habits that can reshape your life, subscribe and walk with us here at Stoic Dhamma. Together, each week, we uncover timeless wisdom for modern days. And in the next video, we will journey deeper into stillness with true power comes from taking responsibility for your actions daily.
References 1. Irvine, W.B., 2009. A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy. Oxford University Press. 2. Robertson, D., 2019. How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, The Stoic Philosophy of Marcus Aurelius. St. Martin's Press. 3. Pigliacci, M., 2017. How to Be a Stoic, Using Ancient Philosophy to Live a Modern Life. Basic Books.